exclusive about Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's handling of sensitive information concerning U.S. military operations in Yemen. 3 U.S. officials with direct knowledge tell NBC News the leader of U.S. Central Command had transmitted the plans to Hegseth over a secure government system. And then, within minutes, Hegseth was using his personal phone to send the information to 2 Signal group chats. One of them included his wife and brother. Joining us now, NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube, Charlie Sykes, MSNBC contributor and columnist, and Sabrina Singh, former deputy press secretary at the Pentagon. So, Courtney, what are we hearing from the defense secretary about all of this?
Well, we heard a little bit from him on Fox News this morning. We have not spoken to him or seen him ourselves today, but he addressed this second story broken by the New York Times over the weekend and confirmed by NBC News that, in fact, as you mentioned, Chris, he started a Signal chat, added family members, including his wife and his brother and some of his friends, including his personal attorney, and then he chatted with them. He texted them specific information about a U.S. military operation against the Houthis. He addressed those allegations today, and as he did yesterday, he blamed both the media and people who were recently fired from here at the Pentagon for this information getting out. Here's what he had to say.
What was shared over Signal, then and now, however you characterize it, was informal, unclassified coordinations for media coordination and other things. That's what I've said from the beginning. We take the classification of information very important. It's very significant to us that we safeguard it.
And that's one of the similar talking points that we heard the first time that we had reporting from The Atlantic about a Signal group that was created by National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and included the Secretary of Defense, where he also texted to these individuals. In this case, it was senior administration officials about an imminent strike and action against the Houthi rebels in Yemen. But what is clear here, according to our new reporting from our colleague Gordon Lubold and I, is that in fact the information that Secretary Hegseth was texting in these unclassified Signal chats came directly from the commanding general of U.S. Central Command, General Eric Kurilla. General Kurilla sent that information over a classified system. Secretary Hegseth turned around and literally within minutes was sending it on an unclassified system, that Signal app. Chris?
Thank you so much for that, Courtney. So, Sabrina, as someone who's worked inside the Pentagon, how closely guarded is this kind of information sent by the leader of CENTCOM?
I mean, simply put, this is classified information, and that's why the commander of Central Command sent it on a classified system of what's being reported. And to have the Secretary of Defense, no less than 10 minutes later, type up that classified information and put it into, sending probably from his personal phone into both chats, it's incredibly concerning. It's incredibly dangerous because that is information that pertains to an operation that hadn't yet begun. And what he did was he put at risk the lives of our fighter pilots that were in the air about to conduct that operation, and our sailors, of course, that are in the Red Sea about to launch some of those missiles towards those Houthi-controlled areas in Yemen.
So, Sabrina, let me play for you what Hegseth said today about these comments and what he called leaks coming out of the Defense Department.
When we had leaks, which we have had here, we did a serious leak investigation. And through that leak investigation, unfortunately, we found some folks that we believe were not holding to the protocols that we hold dear here at the Defense Department. Through that investigation, they have been moved on. Those folks who were leaking, who have been pushed out of the building, are now attempting to leak and sabotage the president's agenda and what we're doing.
He's talking about pretty heavy turnover at the Defense Department this past week, including 3 of his own aides who were ousted in a leak investigation. Is there a double standard here?
I think it's pretty clear that there's a double standard. I mean, if in fact those aides that have been ousted by the Secretary of Defense did leak unclassified or unauthorized information out, they absolutely should be held accountable. The Secretary of Defense himself did the exact same thing that he's accusing his aides of doing. I mean, he put classified information about an operation into 2 signal chats, and yet there has been no accountability for the Secretary of Defense. And just, one more thing on this, in that Fox interview, the Secretary went on to say that he's constantly being briefed on war plans and operational plans. Well, it's then very concerning if he's constantly being briefed on the plans that we are conducting all around the world, that he doesn't understand how concerning and dangerous the information that he put in those signal chats is for our fighters overseas.
So, Charlie, Congressman Don Bacon has become the first Republican lawmaker to suggest that the president should fire Hegseth. In fact, he told NBC News in a text message, and I'm quoting here, "If the reports were true regarding Secretary Hegseth, it is unacceptable, and I wouldn't tolerate it if I was responsible." I should say that congressman is a former Air Force general who chairs an armed services subcommittee that focuses on cyber issues, so he comes at this with a bit of credibility. Do you think his comments could have any ripple effect among Republicans?
Well, I imagine that there are also Republican senators who were pushed into voting to confirm Pete Hegseth, who are unhappy with the way that has turned out. But ultimately, what it comes down to is does Donald Trump want to keep Pete Hegseth? Look, in a normal, rational political universe, he never would have gotten this job. He never would have been confirmed, and he would not survive this. The double standard is ridiculous. To have the Secretary of Defense be a national security risk, presiding over the kind of chaos that he is presiding over, he would be gone. But we are not living in that universe, and it comes down to simply, does Donald Trump, is he going to draw the line and say, no, I want to keep him? Now, right now, it looks like MAGA is circling the wagons around Hegseth, but one gets a sense with this guy, there are always more shoes to drop, and the fact that so many of the calls are coming from within the House, the fact that his former spokesman has written that scathing article in Politico magazine talking about just the absolute mess in the Pentagon ought to be sending alarm bells all through the White House. But again, it doesn't matter. This is Donald Trump's choice, and he's going to make the decision.
He has changed his mind in the past, though. Do you think that there is something, there is some line that happens? What will you be watching for that might possibly say, okay, in spite of him saying that he supports him, maybe not so much?
Well, I think if you start to see some break in the MAGA media about Hegseth, people saying, Mr. President, he is undermining you, he's making you look bad. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Not whether or not he's putting the Pentagon in danger, but whether he is embarrassing Donald Trump. When Donald Trump decides he's a liability and an embarrassment, he'll get rid of him, because as we know with Donald Trump, loyalty only goes one way. We're not there yet. But this really does cut against one of the major thrusts of Donald Trump, which is that I will make America respected and strong and secure. And clearly, with Pete Hegseth running the Pentagon, we are less secure and we are less respected. So I don't know what the trigger is going to be, but somebody is going to sit down with the president and say, Mr. President, this guy is hurting you, and that's when he'll move.
Meantime, Sabrina, Senator Schiff sent a letter to the National Archives and Records Administration. He's asking them to open an investigation into whether the Trump administration, its officials, are following the laws that require government officials to preserve communications. What are the rules around that?
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that they're not. The rules are that the Presidential Records Act dictates that anything relating to government responses, correspondence, whether it be emails, text messages, have to be done on government systems, government phones. And so the fact that Pete Hegseth was using his personal phone to transmit, very sensitive classified information, to coordinate with the national security apparatus, which you saw with that first thread that was started by Mike Waltz, the national security advisor. And then, of course, the second thread that Pete Hegseth started, not only coordinating with aides in his office, but for some reason including his wife, his brother, and his personal attorney. None of this complies with the Presidential Records Act, which is why it's good to see that Senator Schiff sent that letter, because it is important to preserve these records, because this is our history. And at some point in the future, someone will want to look back at this time and certainly take lessons from it.